Special edition Drywall Podcast.
Hello, everybody out in Facebook world, Instagram world, LinkedIn world, YouTube world, wherever you are listening from. Thank you for tuning into the Drywall Podcast. This is a special training edition of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. I'd like to give a shout out to our current distributors. It's been a long road getting this Fresco Harmony stuff to market. I've enjoyed talking about it with all the professionals out there, talking about drywall on the podcast. So most recently, if you have not heard, we are now selling up in Toronto, Canada, out of CSR Drywall Supply. They also have product on their website, and you can order globally, which is extremely fantastic. We also have two locations right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, L&W Supply off of Edith, and also Custom Paint Center, which was our first distribution location. We are also selling in El Paso, L&W. In Colorado, we have 5 locations, if you can believe that. We have 4 out west locations, and you can catch our awesome interview with Out West Supply, Max and Billy with Out West Supply. They're fantastic dudes, and our interview with them is awesome. We're also selling in Montrose, Colorado at the Drywall Supply Yard. And I believe the Drywall Supply Yard has opened another location in Gunnison, Colorado, and I've talked with Nick, and he's interested in also carrying the product in Gunnison. Fresco Harmony, the world's first color line for drywall mud. And you might think that sounds like a simple thing, but as you will hear in this interview with Cam, adding color to the joint compound is essentially the first step. There is a lot to this stuff, and although I will say it's the easiest system on the market, it is by no means easy. This is something that caters to the drywall community, the existing skill sets and tools that they already have, and I'm excited about getting people down to Albuquerque to have trainings, just like we did with Cam. And if you're interested in doing that, you can reach out to me at info@frescoharmony.com. You can also call me directly, 505-400-9313. Without further ado, Cameron Brown out of Ohio with a follow-up interview about his experience coming to Albuquerque and for 2 weeks, no less, and learning a little bit about Fresco Harmony. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to a special edition educational episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. With us once again, Cameron Brown out of Ohio decides to pilgrimage to Albuquerque, New Mexico to try his hand at Fresco Harmony, learn some stuff, and maybe get a little frustrated.
Are we gonna? Okay, you said let's touch on why I got frustrated that day. Let's get back to
that. Yeah.
I think I was just burned at that point. That was day 6 being out, day 7 being out there, and the first 5 days.
Yeah.
I'd work, 6-8 hours, and then I'd go back to the house, and I was making content from the time I got home till like 11 o'clock.
Oh, right.
And I was just tired. That's all it was. That Sunday, I just didn't want to be at work. I just wanted a day off.
Cameron is just as awesome in real life as he is online. The Drywall Podcast was brought to you once again by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. I hope you enjoy this second interview with Cameron Brown about his experience in Albuquerque. And let me know if you have any questions. Once again, Cameron Brown. It's your man, Cameron Brown, back on this special edition of the Drywall Podcast. Fresco Harmony interview where we explore the dynamic of somebody coming to Albuquerque to do a training. A little bit of background. Cam, he took initiative. He's a younger person in the trade, and we have had some other people express interest in coming to do training at Fresco Harmony. Cam actually took that initiative. He called me up, or we talked. He was on podcast. Do you remember what the number of your podcast was?
I want to say it was 20.
He was on podcast 20-ish, around that area, maybe 10 podcasts ago. And we talked on the phone about Fresco Harmony afterwards, and we talked for about an hour. He was really interested in this color joint compound system, and he expressed wanting to come and learn. And I was like, yeah, we've done that. Chad Hesher has been on the Drywall Podcast, and he came and spent a couple of days learning about Fresco Harmony, got some hands-on training, went back up to Newton, Illinois, and is like, he's sold probably 20,000 square feet of Fresco Harmony, some crazy thing. He's done a lot. So Cam offered to come or inquired about coming. I was like, yeah, come on, let's make it happen. And he came, and we just had you came for 2 weeks, which was highly ambitious. And so instead of throwing you on a job, I threw you on a job with Jack, which you did some awesome video content, which you can see on Cam's page. It's your man Cam, and his Instagram page. But then I took Cam and I threw him to the wolves. We put him on. My wife just got a new office space, and there's video and photos of that project. And yeah, let's keep this casual. Let's talk about your experience in Albuquerque, learning about Fresco Harmony. And then I want to hear about like your takeaway, like what you felt about Fresco Harmony prior to the training versus how you feel about it now. Go.
The thing I'm most excited about with it is getting it on the walls around here, because I think that once it's on the walls and people are seeing it, that's what's going to sell it. I wanted to ask you, like, how many of your jobs come from referrals? Like people that go into their friend's house that
all of them. Like, it was slow. It was slow at first. One thing I did do, which you could do, and I've told people about, is show it to your builders. I didn't have any builders here in Albuquerque. So I was starting fresh. I moved here and I was like, I'm going to do color joint compound walls, and that's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to be really successful. And that was really naive, because one of the things I don't think that they train you in those plaster classes is how to hustle work. And I think that's what I go into more of. So one way is through the builder. And I started way late hustling work through builders via the Home Builders Association. And I did what's called a lunch and learn. So I did a lunch and learn where I went in and talked to a bunch of the local builders about Fresco Harmony, because they had never heard of it. And that's a fantastic way. If you have existing builders that you work with, you can go do a free wall and show them. The other way that I did it before I knew the builders was home shows. So I went and paid $1,000, got a corner booth at a home show, and 1,000 people walk by your booth, 10,000 people walk by your booth in a weekend at a home show. And that kind of catapulted me. I started doing home shows a long time ago.
But yeah, that's the thing. I think once you see it in person, because the videos, the pictures, they just don't do it justice. You have to see it. You've got to feel it and just be there for it. Because if you stand in one direction and look at the wall, it looks completely different than if you walk 5 feet down and the light hits it,
Yeah. It is experiential. I think that's why Chad went back and had success. I think that's why you're going to have success, because it isn't just coloring joint compound. As you now know, there's a lot more to it. Like,
We
yes,
should touch on the nightmare of Nevada's job.
it was gravy
What,
to me.
yeah. What we covered on. I told Nick that I would have walked in that job and walked back out and questioned messaging my customer back with a price because I wouldn't want to offend them before. But
that's a good point. No, you said you wouldn't have taken that job.
Yeah,
you would have been like, I don't want to come in here and skim out these walls. It's too much of a nightmare. There's pipes everywhere. There's wires sticking out of the wall. You had to take down trim. There's like the existing texture and like gloss paint. It was all ugly.
Going off of it, chipping off of it.
Patched up.
Yeah, like.
And yeah, so you peeled that trim. There was some like ugly decorative trim that we peeled off, and it took some of the paint with it. So now, I mean, you may have been, as a layman, you may have been a little nervous that the mud wasn't going to cover that wall in one coat. And I have to tell you, after like 1 million square feet of this crap, I was even a little apprehensive. 2 coats was going to cover that wall, and we ended up doing a 3rd coat in one section because only because of the bleeding of like it stained. It had this weird stain effect. But walk me through that. You sort of trusted the process. You were like, okay, I mean, what were you think? Were you thinking there's no way Fresco Harmony is going to cover this wall? He's nuts.
No, I was confident in it. I thought as long as we put the first coat on heavy enough, the second coat would skim it right out.
Okay.
And
cool.
I think another thing that I learned in doing it out there is that my base coat I was putting on too heavy at first.
Okay.
And then also on my second coat I was doing it too thin at first. I mean, there was so much that I learned just being out there in those 11 days that it would have taken me probably 4 or 5 jobs out here doing it on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
Calling you and bugging
you. Yeah, and people do. I don't care if people call me and ask me questions. I'm not so busy right now that I can't field questions, and I like fielding questions about Fresco Harmony. I'm selling the product. I want you to be successful. That's my goal. So you said what I heard you say was putting it on a lot thicker, no big deal. You were a little apprehensive maybe back in Ohio about putting it on thicker, but after your experience here, you're like, oh yeah, you can just smear that shit on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no big.
Yep, just fill it up. Just give it an extra day to dry.
And what I always say is just bury it. Just like, get that, So Jack was just on a job. Cam actually got to see that job. We're doing Galtiero steel, black, over level 3, and they sanded it, but they kind of got it ready for texture. So I got to talk to the drywall guy, and I was like, what do you think of this stuff? Because I'm always like trying to sell it. And his name was Alejandro, cool dude. And he was like, oh, you underbid me, man. And I was like, well, what were you bidding? And he was like, we were doing Venetian plaster. And I was like, so to give you an idea, the job was around $9,800, 3,000 square foot. I'm right around $350 a square foot for Fresco. That's in Albuquerque. Prices may vary. This guy was coming in and he pretty much gave me the nod too. He didn't tell me exactly how much, but around 20,000, 20 to 25,000 for the Venetian plaster. And that GC was still breaking my balls about the price at 9,800. Like, to give you an idea. And then Jack busted that job. We had and he agreed they would have been looking at 4,000 or 5,000 in Venetian plaster product just to buy the product. So he had to charge that much, not to mention you have to prime the wall. And I took the guy over and I was like, see, we didn't prime the wall at all. We just went right over and I was like, better yet, you didn't even need to sand this stuff. It was all sanded. And I was like, you just wasted your time.
And showed up and it was sanded.
And so at first he was talking about shiny. Oh, I like it more shiny. Which is we get that a lot. It's like, this isn't what Fresco Harmony is. Fresco Harmony looks like this. Here's the price point. And if you want the shiny stuff, well, you can go pay. You're welcome to go pay an extra 15,000 for Venetian plaster. But a lot of people want to save that 15. I guarantee that 15K went right into the GC's pocket. He still got his nut for Venetian plaster from the clients. Now, the feedback from the clients, based on the superintendent on the job, was that the GC actually wished it was a little more shiny, but the clients like the matte finish. So it doesn't always have to be shiny. And then I was talking with the superintendent on the job, and he was saying that also, like, a lot of the plaster companies are making their earth tones and their matte finishes. Well, at that point, just go use Fresco Harmony if you want a more matte finish, and save yourself a bunch of headache. So that was just the experience of that job. I wanted to fill you in while we talk to our audience about a job you got to see and sort of how that rounded out.
So is Alejandro, is that his name? The drywall guy?
Yeah.
Is he pitching Fresco now? I mean, is he on the Fresco? Yeah.
He was on board. I gave him a color pack, and then I showed him the Galtiero steel color packs and what they look like. And I was like, no, joint compound, and I showed him the box. Like, like you have to like explain it. And I think he was definitely interested. Whether or not he calls me back, I gave him a card. I was like, come to the studio, get free product, go do it, and he seemed interested, but we'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be dumb not to look into it.
He could come here and get free product if he wanted to. If he was smart, he would come here and like go make money. I'm not trying to sell snake oil. I genuinely would like to see drywall guys make money with this product. That's the point. And it's fun to do. So explain a little bit more about, we played in the studio.
Yeah, we got to do sample boards and I got to play with any color that I wanted to. Getting to mess around with all the, I'm really excited to get all of the sealers. I didn't get to mess around with any of the smoke while I was there, which I got to see all the sample boards. So that's
you got to see Nevada's office upstairs with the smoke.
Yeah.
It's just a simple application. It's just, a gray. Basically, it takes like a normal wall like behind me, and it's sort of like there's black in the sealer, so it just sort of shades your high points and gives you more of a patina. All of the metallics are based on like patinas. And so when Cam came, we got to play around a little bit with gold, and you actually did an etching, which I can splice in a photo of the piece you did. It's kind of neat, but that's a simple concept.
Yeah, the simplicity of the different things that you can do, like you were showing me with masking off and doing like borders, and just there's so many options to go with Fresco. It's not just one color. There's so many different colors, and then when you get into one color, it's like, well, you can add a swirl, or you could go over with this sealer that gives it this different effect. There's the options are, I don't know, to me, unlimited.
So what'd you think of the swirl? Cam got to actually do a project. Jack was saying that the client, full disclosure, Jack was saying the client was a little worried because your swirl looked a little different than his.
Really? Was she picking a favorite on the swirl? She liked his swirls more?
She liked his swirl better than yours, dude.
It was my first swirl.
I thought yours looked good. Like seeing lots of swirl. I thought it looked great.
No,
Jack's feedback was that's why you guys did different sections.
But yeah, that was a good idea on Jack's part to put us both in different rooms.
Right. And sometimes you'll have variations if you're working with somebody from one section to another on the finish. I liked your swirl.
Thank you. I was excited with how it came out. I guess now that looking back on it, if you sat there and picked it apart, you could definitely tell my work from Jack's. But But that was another thing. And at first, when I was doing the swirl, I was putting the paint into the mud and I was like mixing it all together, where Jack's like, no, you just want to mix it just a little bit.
Ah, okay.
Like I was taking a 6-inch knife and swirling it on my hawk before I put it on the wall.
Too much. You were swirling it too much because you get that. You'll get when you go to the wall, it blends.
Yeah. And then you've got to learn how much to add, your ratio of paint to mud.
Right. So that was her final feedback, though, if you can see that. Is it backwards on your screen?
Love it. No, I see it. I can read it.
Cool. Yeah. So we like those text messages. Her walls look sweet, and she didn't pay a fortune, and you did awesome. So, like, the ergo, though, there is no guarantees, and on the contract, I gotta let people know there's a lot of there's a lot of communication around expectation. Here's what's going to happen on your job. I got this guy coming in from Ohio. Your job's going to look a certain way. If it's horrible, I can go over it, but there is no guarantees. And your finish was close enough to the sample that, I'm not going to go over. And this prevents people from nitpicking, which you got to learn a little bit about too. Like when you get a client that is overly picky, how do you deal with that? And you have to sort of set boundaries, and you have to establish or work around expectation when it pertains to fresco harmony. That's something new. I think drywallers are used to dealing with expectation around general contractors, but not around color and like homeowners and finish and like that sort of thing.
And the learning how to touch it up was really cool. We never to get into that.
Yeah, sure.
Going around, and I mean the simplicity of it. A lot of that stuff, some of it just buffed out. Put a little sealer on it.
I was at Claudia's this morning finishing up that.
How did that one come out?
It looked okay. If I needed to do something else, but there again, I told her, and she was cool. But like we did a ceiling, and then they came in. And as my old boss used to say, Swiss cheesed it. There was 3 holes in the ceiling and, right in the middle of this giant ceiling. And I told her, like, I'll patch it, but some patches show up more than others. And I'm going to do my best. I'll patch it. I could faux it out a little bit with paint, which I haven't yet. But at worst case scenario, we have to reskim and reseal the ceiling, which happens in plaster scenarios too. But for the most part, I think the patch looks good enough that it's in a guest bedroom. I don't think they're going to like lose any sleep over it, but there again, setting expectation, especially around patching. How much do you want to do? We can patch this. I'll charge hourly or whatever. We're going to patch this patch. And then, let me know if you want to go further. Mm-hmm. We'll start here, and then we can go further if we need to.
You don't want to start with reskimming that whole ceiling, because it's going to cost the customer a lot. It's going to cost you a lot more time.
That's right.
Just blend it in. It's good enough.
So your experience of coming to Albuquerque and doing a training, would you do it again? What would your pluses and minuses? What would you recommend for somebody coming here if they're interested in coming to Albuquerque to do a training? And you're cruising around Albuquerque, you're hanging out in Albuquerque for 2 weeks. What's your recommendations around that? Because I would love to see people come here. And, and also too, you could probably reach out to Cam and talk to him about his experience if you're interested in coming here. I'm sure he'd be cool with that.
Definitely. I'm an open book. It was great. I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. I had a blast out there.
Yeah, it was fun.
If I could change one thing, I would have taken that Sunday off that I got frustrated. Side note.
Let's talk about that. Why'd you get frustrated?
I worked every day. Well, not the last day. And there was a day where we just kind of rode around in patches. I didn't really work that day. But
Nah.
there was a good bit of work involved while I was out there.
Yeah.
Um, are we gonna, okay, you said let's touch on why I got frustrated that day. Let's get back to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think I was just burned at that point. That was day 6 being out, day 7 being out there. And the first 5 days,
Yeah.
um, I'd work, 6, 8 hours, and then I'd go back to the house and I was making content from the time I got home till like 11 o'clock.
Oh, right.
And I was just tired. That's all it was. That Sunday. I just didn't want to be
Yeah.
at work. I just wanted a day off. But
Yep.
no, we
You
all
should
get,
have taken Saturday and Sunday off.
yeah. I wish I could have seen Albuquerque more. I got to see a lot of the work scene, but
Yeah,
I would love to come back out and just hang out for a week and check out the town.
totally. But if you're coming for training, be prepared to work because, like,
Yeah.
I'll load your ass up. Like you,
Nick's
because
gonna be cracking the whip on you.
I got the vibe that you wanted to work. I was like,
did.
oh, mofo wants to work. Let's give him some work. Yeah, and it was. I love to see people squirm a little bit too. Just like any good journeyman or somebody that's been doing it a long time. I knew kind of what we were getting into with the office, and it didn't look like as much as it turned out to be. And
Yeah,
I mean, even
we're like, we're going into the job saying we're gonna do one wall, and we get in there, and I was like, let's just do it all.
let's bust this place
The
out.
whole office, 11-foot walls, and no.
I was like, okay, but at that point, I was like, oh, all right, well, I guess he's not going to help Jack on the next one. He's going to be here.
But I do have to give Nick credit because he did come in and bail me out. Was it Monday? You came in on Monday. I was feeling pretty good about myself because I was starting on the second coat. I was getting rolling, and then you came in around noon, and we knocked out the rest of the second coat together, I believe.
Just the one wall. I helped you on the hard wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even 2 hours.
That with Albuquerque, all of the bullnose bead. And so me and Jack were talking. I said, man, I get like 2 jobs a year that we get bullnose bead on. And
okay.
Whining, there's an upcharge. And then I get down to Albuquerque.
It's all bullnose
everywhere. And I'm not talking like trim bullnose. I'm talking like plaster, just build your own bullnose.
It's hard to explain that the weird undulation like surfaces that we run into, like people like at Sukumani, like that fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't see anything like that anywhere outside of New Mexico. Like it's just weird. Like it looks like somebody like sculpted it with their hands,
Yeah. It's beautiful, though. I mean, it really is cool. Like all the fireplaces down there. I was amazed with the couple. Claudius was really cool. What was the name? There's a name for that fireplace, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's called a Kiva.
A Kiva
fireplace. Yeah, if you look up Kiva fireplaces, I think that's unique to New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just over there again. I took a wide shot of that whole Christmas scene she's got going on there. Just gorgeous. I mean,
that whole house was beautiful.
I want you to. So Cam and I did a video walkthrough with Claudia Apodaca of Apodaca Gold, the Fresco Harmony color. I go back 17 years with this client. She's probably done over $70,000 worth of Fresco Harmony. And I had the fortunate opportunity of walking through with Cam and his GoPro. And hopefully in the near future, we'll get some good, like a nice videograph, a video of like sort of a storyboard of that project. I think it's really neat, and it would probably be worth the time. But yeah, I got to get you I have to get you that footage.
Yeah, we left that footage in New Mexico along with my work boots.
Yeah, they're right over there. Yeah, and just gratitude for Cam. Cam was special too because he came here. I paid you for your time. You did the videography work. It was an even trade. That content is very cool. If you get a chance to check out It's Your Man Cam page on Instagram, you can see his videos on his reels. They're fantastic. And, if you're inclined, you may want to get Cam to just fly out to where you're at and do videography for you, because he's very good at it. He's a natural. I don't know if you'd be into that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That's what I was kind of hoping for. Maybe I can go out do Columbia Tools next.
Yeah. So Aaron and Elliot, if you're listening, it'd be fun. We'll go up to Columbia Tools and you got to get your passport, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta get my passport, and then we're gonna go do Fresco Harmony in their shop.
We'll go up to Columbia Tools and we'll do Fresco. We'll do a training session with Aaron and Elliot, and they'll get to play around with the color, and then you can video that. And hopefully we won't do so much Fresco that you're like working steady for 40 hours. We'll get to see a little bit of Vancouver, BC.
I'm going to get cranky.
Yeah. Cam will get a little cranky, and I'll be like, dude, what? You want me to come in and bail you out? It's fine. So yeah, thank you this was a good wrap up. Anything else you want to include in the wrap up that we haven't covered about your experience? Tips that you would give somebody if they're thinking about coming here?
I would do it. I mean, if you're even thinking about it, do it. It's worth your time. It's worth your money to go out there and learn. You're going to learn. I mean, I learned so much from you in that 11 days. It was great. There's nothing that I regret at all about that trip. It was phenomenal.
And you're 100% confident now. You can order online. You know about the custom colors. You know how to sell it to your client. You could tackle a large job and be 100% confident.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
I've got sample boards to make this weekend, and I'm going to go pitch it to a client, and hopefully I've already got the job. It's just a matter of getting the right sample boards made, something that they want, Yeah,
and maybe video some of that and let the audience know what happened, and because I think it's important to talk about how we sell these jobs, man. Like if somebody can't sell the shit, then it's worthless, and Fresco Harmony sells because I'm not pricing myself out of the job. My price is right. The product is inexpensive to get, and it's efficient to put on the wall. People forget about that. It's like, oh, I want the shiny plaster. Well, that's fine. Shiny plaster's fine. It looks beautiful, but it's expensive. It's hard to get. It's hard to put on. It takes a lot of time. I don't know. You got to be trained to buy it. In some instances, it's very difficult. This isn't. This is easy. It's affordable. It's efficient. That's the point.
I find it perfect for those jobs. I mean, every drywaller goes into those jobs that an entire wall needs skimmed or an entire room needs skimmed, and the people are living in the house. You're skimming the walls out. You have to sand it then, which is creating dust in the person's home. And then you still have to paint it. Whereas with your product, you skim the walls out, you put the sealer on it, and you're done. There's no dust.
Right.
Clients' walls are painted when you leave, and they look beautiful.
Yep.
So that's where I find it the most beneficial is like in remodel work. I think that, and I think there's a place for it in new construction too. Don't get me wrong, but I think that that's where I'm going to have the best chance with selling it, is going into people's homes.
Yep. Existing homes where they want something cool.
Yeah.
And I think your margins are good there too. And also getting money from homeowners is a lot easier than getting money from builders. Definitely. I've found.
Yeah.
They're like ready with the checkbook. It's my favorite. Jack's job, like it's a commercial job. I'm like, okay, I got to send the job's done. I got to send the guy the invoice and be like, I'm already like brainstorming how I can get the money faster. It's like, hey, dude, me doing patches on your job is directly relative to how quickly I get my final draw. Like I'm done. Where's my money?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
I don't understand that. That's when I came out there, I was waiting on a check.
Yep. They hate to release the money. Thank you so much, Cam. Good feedback, and hopefully we'll see you maybe at Columbia Tools. I'll wrangle those guys because that would be fun. Maybe when it's warmer up there. They're getting some really harsh Arctic stuff up there right now. I don't think we want to be up there right now. Too cold.
No, and I gotta get my passport anyway, so I'll get on that, and we will get that trip together. Hopefully.
Yep. And thanks for coming on here, and we'll talk soon, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
All right, buddy. Bye.
All right, later.
Thank you so much for joining us on this special Fresco Harmony Training edition of the Drywall Podcast. I appreciate you guys listening in. If you would like information about Cam's experience, how to come down here and do a training, reach out directly. These trainings are, more oriented towards individuals coming down and having an experience versus a training. If you're out of the country, check us out on the CSR website. Super excited to announce that we can now get product to all the cool dudes and dudettes in Canada and beyond. I hope you have a fantastic day, and remember, keep drywalling.